Welcome back to Life of the Dream. Gonna do you guys dirty today. We're doing it. You gotta lock in with the cheese. First things first. Album of the week. Childish Gambino, Kawhi. Great album. Childish Gambino. It's just a master of his craft, really. Great dude. Definitely give that one a listen. Then fit check. We're doing a little new fit check. Something slight. So the shoes here, we got some Air Force Ones, just something classic, you know. Got that corduroy toe box, you know, loose laced. Represent the kind of the. Well, I'll let you guys try to figure out what that represents. Actually, pants. I don't know if you can see them. Just some black Eddie Bauer jeans, something slight, and then the shirt, also black. I don't know if you can see it. I gotta squat down a little. The Science Bridge. Science Bridge is like it's somewhat of an org on my campus, like an organization, and basically like I like podcasting, right? So if you guys don't know, I have a actual podcast on Spotify. For the people that tune in that don't know that, but yeah, I have my own podcast, but I also have this new podcast that I'm a part of, more of like a team thing. It's called The Science Bridge, and it's just a group of PhD students that and one postdoc right now, that we bring on different, you know, faculty and people affiliated with the university, and sit them down and have them talk about their science in a way that the general public can understand, right? So it's not filled with all this jargon that I feel like a lot of scientists use, so people can actually understand what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, right? And kind of get an idea of what we're up to. So yeah, and then the most important part, the cheese, continuing with the fit check, obviously. Whoa, is this right? Yeah. I want the point in the back. Switch it up a little. This is really just like a symbol of where I'm from in Wisconsin. It's kind of like the thing to wear at a Green Bay Packers game. So yeah. But other than that, I think we get into it here. Quick science fact for you. I was gonna expand it a lot more, but I'm gonna keep it brief this time. I'll spare you guys too much immunology. You don't want to overwhelm you quite yet. We'll get there though. That'll be future episodes. Basically, this one is the fact that when I say bacteria or virus, I think the first thing that comes into my mind, and I think a lot of your guys' mind, are bad, dangerous, harmful, and you know, a lot of these are probably true. Some of them are true, I should say, because we do know bacteria that are actually good for your gut, that are in your gut, providing your body with nutrients. But in terms of the bad microbes, right? So like the dangerous ones that can actually do damage, if you ingest them, right? Bacteria and viruses. I think this is something that I only recently had a change of, like a frame of mind change, that I think is actually revolutionary to how you look at these, like, quote unquote dangerous microbes, which they are, right? But really, I think people's view of them is that their whole objective is to cause damage to the human body and like kill you, essentially. And it's something I also thought for the longest time, but I've realized now that, like, it's just not the case. The whole case of any form of life is to continue to live, right? And reproduce. That's the whole point of life, right? And this is no different, right? These dangerous microbes, yes, they cause damage, but they're not doing it on purpose, right? They're that's simply a byproduct of what they're trying to accomplish. And really what they're trying to accomplish is stealing nutrients from us so that they can survive, right? And sometimes this results in doing damage to the body. And I would also propose, so that's one way to look at it. Don't look at it as like these microbes are like trying to kill me, right? That they're really just trying to get your nutrients. It's like a very different way of looking at it, honestly. And I would also put this on the flip side, where you could argue that the whole point of the immune system is to obviously prevent dying, right? But I think even a more primary role is because maybe not, maybe not. This is partially a theory that maybe has never really been supported. This is less of a fact and more of just like my mind running now. But I think part of why the immune system is there is to actually prevent these microbes from stealing that nutrients. Not to necessarily kill the microbe, although it might do that in the process. All the immune system wants to do is you're not going to steal nutrients from me, right? Like that's the whole point. Like we keep that nutrients for ourselves. So some food for thought, some fact, which we know microbes aren't actually trying to do damage to the body unless it benefits them in some way to gain nutrients, right? Like they're not actually trying to do that. That's usually a byproduct of what's going on. So little fun science for you. Kind of another sidebar too, but I actually recorded this a couple nights ago. I got like halfway through and then I realized my camera battery was pretty low, but I thought I could make it through the episode. And dude, like all of a sudden I hear a click and it just dies. Like, and I was like, oh, I was like, that's great. So, um, but I decided to save that episode that I talked about, or like kind of the theme, with the wisdom of the week, for a different time because I found something today that was actually. I kind of just go, when I get on these, like whatever is most inspiring to me, I look through all my ideas and I'm like that one, and we just rip it. Um, so excuse me. I think getting right into it, like I don't know. I kind of want to do less of like talking about my week, to be honest, and kind of just give you guys the rundown. I've actually been being inspired quite a bit by this guy called Ryan Robinson. He's on YouTube. You can go look him up and check him out. He's a smaller YouTuber, but he's just this dude who I think is a lot like me. He thinks a lot about stuff that I talk about, right? I think we talk about similar stuff, and I've been feeling like really inspired by a lot of what he said lately, and it's funny. Like I think like he says all this really profound stuff, and this whole time he's always like ripping a dart, like ripping a cig, and I think it's something so funny about that. And I'm sure he describes it as one of his videos why he does it, but like he's at least the ones I've watched, he's never really let me know about that. So I just think it's kind of funny that he's just ripping the dart, and it kind of gave me something to think about for this, because I think a lot of times I'll let the camera like kind of make me nervous and put me into this somewhat of a shell. And the other day I just realized I was like, this is mine. Like I can do whatever I can do whatever I want with this. So why am I like letting it get in the shell? Like this is all me, right? So I'm kind of trying to just um not be more out of pocket, but I think like being myself comes with kind of being out of pocket. Like that's kind of how I am. Like anyone that knows me really well knows I'm this really like kind of out of pocket, like just very like kind of like you never know my next move kind of deal. Like that's like the biggest compliment anyone could ever give me is like, well, I feel like I just don't know your next move, because I kind of like being like unpredictable. But yeah, that's kind of the vibe I'm trying to adapt, and I think you can see a progression even in my videos. Like as I go on, like I'm becoming more and more comfortable just being on here, which I think will just be better and overall just more entertaining if I can be myself more. So with all that being said, basically for anyone new that hasn't like doesn't know what the rundown of Life of the Germ is, basically, I don't know, the first 5 minutes I do like Elm of the Week, Fit of the Week, all this stuff. And kind of like maybe, dabble on some random thoughts that I'm having, like stuff like this. But then I kind of save the best for last, which is what all the titles of the episodes are based on, which is called what I call the Wisdom of the Week, and just some heat I've been cooking up throughout the week that I'm like, I really want to talk about this because it really like stuck out to me, right? So with all that being said, if you guys are listening and don't really care for the beginning, like just skip to the good stuff, like if that's what you're here for, like stick to the good stuff, but I save it to the end because it's like it's the best part, right? But yeah, that's kind of the lowdown. But wisdom of the week, man. This week, I mean, you guys can see in the title, right? So actually, this YouTuber that I just shouted out, Ryan Robinson, he was actually kind of talking about in one of his videos, like beating around the bush about this thing that the title is, there are no accidents. And then something just clicked. Like he didn't directly say it, but I'm like, this sounds very familiar, and this is really funny. But to what Master Oogway said to Shifu in Kung Fu Panda, and I know you guys are like, what in the world? One of my favorite movies, like actually, Jack Black for one is just great. I already shouted him out in a couple of videos ago, but also, I don't know, that scene, there's so many like, I often find that wise people often describe things in metaphors, which I don't exactly know why that is. It's very interesting, but it's almost like a riddle for you to figure out. And when Oogway's, going to pass in the movie, he kind of like talks to Shifu about, Shifu's given Po, who's just this, what people call in the movies, just, you're just this big fat panda. Like, what are you actually going to do, right? And Shifu's the same way. He's trained all these really good warriors, and then Oogway says that Po is the one. He's the dragon warrior to defeat Tai Lung, right? And it's interesting because Shifu is he's such a talented mentor, but he thinks that, he looks at Po and he's like, Po's never going to be the dragon warrior, and Oogway knows that with proper care he will be, right? And Oogway goes on to say, how there are no accidents, and they're by this peach tree, right? And he goes on to say that you can't control when the peach tree blooms, right? And then Shifu counters by saying, but I can control where I want the next plant to grow, and like chops a seed and puts it in the ground, right? And I think it's interesting, and then Oogway counters and he goes, but you can't make it an apple tree. You can't make it a pear tree. You can't make it any other. It will still be a peach tree, right? Kind of meaning that, like, I think in a way that, like, now that I think about this, like, people are who they are, right? Like, you're not going to change them, right? And Oogway goes on to say, like, because Po just stumbled in, and then Shifu thought that Oogway like pointed at him like by accident, right? You got to watch the movie, otherwise it doesn't really make sense. But yeah, Oogway goes on to say like there are no accidents, and I really think there's something to be said about whether you believe that or not is one thing, but I think whether you inherit that mindset is a whole nother thing, because there's millions and billions of different ways to look at this life, right? And I think there comes this point where you can choose to look at life in different ways, right? And I think like you can choose to look at everything like everyone's out to get you, right? We've all met that person that like, oh, the world's out to get me. I hate that phrase because it's like it's just so like, no, it isn't. Like in all reality, I don't know. I'm not gonna harp on what people believe or what they don't, but in terms of frame of mind, you can frame that however you want. And say you think things are totally random and happen, and like there's there's no reason, there's no meaning behind any of the events that happen in your life. You can still be in this frame of mind thinking there are no accidents. And then what gets you going in that is the fact that anything that happens in your life, you kind of believe happens for a reason, right? And not in a reason that's necessarily negative or positive, but leads you down a different path in your life that you never would have taken otherwise. And I really think there's something powerful to be said about that, because then you start looking at each event like, what was I supposed to get out of that? And not in a negative way, but it kind of in like a more positive light. Like, what could what about that event could I apply and then take that into the future, right? And sometimes the events I've found when I've been in this frame of mindset, in the moment, like if something terrible happens, in the moment right away, you're like, well, I don't understand how that would even make sense. Like, why, why would I be able to benefit from that? And sometimes it's not till months, years later where you look back and you're like, oh, because of that, I learned this. And it was a really crappy experience for me. Like, it was very painful to go through. But as a result, I have a previous episode where I talk about pivot points. I either pivoted and discovered this new thing that I never would have ran into, or I persevered and, increased my level of perseverance as a result, or, any of these things. It's just a frame of mindset to look at things that instead of thinking that the world's out to get you, like, why not look at it like, oh, this quote unquote negative result that you think is negative, right? In reality, it's unbiased. What the result is a result. There's no positive or negative. What happened, right? But it's up to your mind to sort of fill in the blanks there. And are you gonna choose? I think that's the word. Are you gonna choose to see it as, oh, it was an accident, oh, I got lucky, oh, I got this, oh, this was the worst? Are you gonna see it as, no, there are no accidents, and this happened because X, Y, and Z, and it therefore led to these new experiences that I never would have had otherwise? And I would just challenge everyone, even if you're not sold on this, whatever. Like, it's not my job to sell you on this crap, right? Like, this is stuff that I come on here to talk about, and like Ugoi said to Chifu, right? You plant the peach tree, but you can't change it into an apple tree. What you planted, that peach tree, that peach seed, that will become a peach tree. That's how it is, right? And it's the same thing for this. I'm not gonna like sit here and try to convince you guys that this is the way, right? Like, I think there's a lot of creators on here that I watch on YouTube that are like, I watch this one girl that's like, do you get me? Do you understand? And it's like, girl, like, we're not, like, you're not convincing anyone of anything. Like, don't act like you have all the answers, right? I don't want to come on here sounding like I do, because I don't. But all I have to offer to you guys is things that I've learned that have helped me get through this life in a much more fun and rewarding way. And I really think that's really what you want in life, right? You want a fun, fulfilled life. That's all anyone wants. And if I can come on here and give you guys some things that I've learned that have helped me achieve that, or live a better life in some way, I'm going to do that. But like I said with the peach tree, it's out of my control, right? It's up to you. I'm not gonna be like, come on here, do this, do that. I also hate all those YouTubers too. It's like, no, don't tell people what to do. Let them have their free will. Ultimately, they will still have their free will, right? But don't tell someone what to do. I hate when someone tells me that. It's like, dude, unless you're my boss, like, no, like, stop, like, just stop, like, let me do what I want to do, right? And that's the end of the story. Like, so all that to say, like, this mindset has allowed me to see things in a way that I wonder what I was supposed to get out of that guy cutting me off. Instead of getting all mad about it, what was I supposed to learn from that? What was I supposed to get out of that? And it totally flips things on its head. And I'm like, oh, it taught me to, instead of getting all mad at something I can't control, why don't I just relax and enjoy my drive? And if someone cuts me off, oh no, they cut me off, you know? What am I to do about that? You know, maybe they didn't check their blind spot. Who knows? Like that's beyond me. But it really changes this whole way of looking at things. And yeah, I think that's what I wanted to bring on. And it just provides me with more peace in my life. And I think um, yeah, it's so much better than, oh, like if you think the world's out to get you, then like you're on your toes. You're like, what's next? What's next for this evil, evil world? What's gonna get me next? And it's like, of course, now you're looking for it, right? And when you're looking for something, you're gonna see more of it, right? That's how that works. And oh, you're gonna see more evil. Oh, and before you know it, it's like you look at this world like it's malicious, like there's no good in that, and that's just simply not the case. This is a great world, and I think a lot of your frame of reference though is makes me feel like it is a good world, right? Because I've lived my entire life not thinking this mindset exactly, but kind of being positive and just staying on the positive side of things. So, um, yeah, with all that being said, I'm like super excited to get in this like weekly routine, man. I think this is like what I've been missing. And as much as it is hard for me to find time for this, I do like I get excited every week to like drop the new episode. I'm like, oh, I wonder what people are gonna think. Like, are they gonna be excited for this? And it allows me to get through my week, and I hope it does the same for you guys. Like, I hope Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Central, you guys are like looking forward to the podcast dropping, and or Life of the Germ dropping, and oh, I wonder what he's gonna say this week. Like, who knows? But it might be good. Like, and I think overall it's just a win-win for the listener and for me. So I'm excited to get like really start to get in this routine of just posting every week. So with all that being said, um, there are no accidents. Me looking away from the camera, me looking at the camera, me stuttering, me taking a deep breath into the mic so you guys can hear it. It's all a part of the plan, right? So I'm your host Jeremy, and hope you enjoyed this episode of Life of the Germ, and I'll catch you in the next one.